Often, when I tell people my wellness studio specializes in sound therapy, I hear a lot of horror stories about bad experiences in sound baths. So, in this episode, I want to address why sound baths are gaining a bad rep.
You are listening to the Sound Therapy Network podcast, where we talk about all things sound healing. This podcast is for practitioners and clients who want to learn more about this magical healing modality.
Welcome to the Sound Therapy Network podcast. I am your host, Niajae, owner of Bliss Wellness Studio in Tampa, Florida, and the creator of Somatic Sound Therapy. I want to address something very, very important. I talk about sound therapy every single day because my wellness studio specializes in sound therapy. And at the time of recording this, I had a news segment on Fox 13, and the newscaster actually said in between the segment, someone in the back said she went to a sound bath and it was so loud, it really triggered her anxiety and she felt panicky. And I hear that so often. I honestly hear it so much, it's starting to become problematic. A lot of people say, I don't like crystal sound bowls. I don't like sound baths. And it's because they went to an experience where the practitioner was playing so loud that it was actually anxiety inducing rather than soothing and calming. So I felt it was really important that we address this head on, so we can minimize the harm that's being done and prevent sound baths from gaining a bad rep. So one of the first things that I want to talk about is crystal singing bowls. So this is a crystal singing bowl. The thing that I hear the most is people playing too loud. I teach a trauma-informed training, and I also speak at a lot of YTT trainings, yoga teacher trainings, because what I hear often is the yoga instructors playing at the end of a yoga session and they don't have any training on sound bowls, so they're like really cranking it up. And I've witnessed this myself. And it's really important to understand that louder doesn't equal more powerful. So these are powerful tools, but we want to use them with mindfulness. And you don't have to play it so loud for a person to feel it's powerful. So the small bowls, 6-inch, 8-inch bowls, also have a really high pitch. So when you play crystal singing bowls that are 6 or 8 inches, that high pitch, if someone has anxiety, is going to sound like nails on a chalkboard. So one of the things that I talk to my trainees and mentees about is purchasing larger bowls. So the larger the bowl, the deeper the tone. So a 6-inch bowl, no matter what the note is, you can also purchase that same note or that same chakra in a 12-inch, 14-inch, 16-inch bowl. And it's going to be a lower octave, which is going to be more grounding. The high pitches keep people in their heads, and we're already overstimulated. We're constantly receiving notifications and pings and alarms. We're in our heads so much. What we want is to drop into our bodies. The high pitches keeps us up here, and I facilitate wellness scans, and I've been conducting research for years on how sound therapy impacts the body and the nervous system. And one thing that I notice about running people's scans, scanning people's biofields, energy systems, meridians, is that there's so much overstimulation in the head. I adjusted how I facilitate my sound baths. When I first started, I used to have the client's head closer to the bowls. Now I have the client's feet closer to the bowls, and I always have a grounding bowl at the base of the mat. Also, I do smaller sessions because my wellness studio is specializing in wellness. It's not just a sound bath for relaxation. I'm helping people recover and repair from burnout. So it is a more intimate experience because it's geared towards actually improving mental, emotional, and physical well-being. not all sound baths improve well-being if they're not facilitated properly. That's the importance of trauma-informed care. But upon doing this research, I realized we don't need more stimulation around the head because we're already overstimulated. A lot of people are dissociated, disconnected from their body. They can't feel their lower half because we're in our heads so much as a society. So I started having clients' feet closer to the bowls. So that's helping them drop into their body. And then that vibration at the feet is creating vibration and sensation and movement in the lower chakras, which we really need. So that's one huge shift that I made, in addition to switching out my 6 and 8 inch bowls, because that high pitch, almost every person that comes into my studio and fills out an intake form marks that they have anxiety. So if everyone in our society pretty much has anxiety, then playing high pitches and playing the crystal bowls too loud is actually harmful. And this is why people are saying it triggered my anxiety, because practitioners are playing too loud, and sometimes they're playing smaller bowls that have a high pitch, and they're playing them too loud and too long. And if someone has PTSD, complex PTSD, that's going to impact them even more. Another thing that I see often that I haven't spoken about publicly, I only talk about it in my training, is chiming the bowl versus singing the bowl. So let me show you what I mean. If you are listening on your favorite podcast platform, I do recommend watching this video on YouTube. So go to the show notes so you can find the YouTube link, because I want you to visibly see what I'm referring to. So I have a crystal bowl here, and I have my Blue Yeti plugged in. I have several different mics, but I specifically wanted to use the Blue Yeti because it doesn't have a noise canceling feature on it. So you should be able to pick up all of the sounds. What I see all the time, and I say this to my mentees and the people that go through my training, just because you see it on TikTok, it doesn't mean it's good for the nervous system, okay? I say it all the time. So what we see people do is chime the bowl. So what I mean by that, chime the bowl and then start playing it. I want to tell you, you do not have to chime the bowl to get your crystal bowl to sing. I want to say that again. You do not have to chime your bowl to get your crystal bowl to sing, okay? I see people do this, right? You don't have to do that. I'll explain why you don't have to and why it's actually better for the nervous system if you don't. So if you simply sing the bowl, just go around the rim, it will gradually start to build volume. You don't have to chime it first. So let me explain why it's better not to chime the bowl and to simply sing it. So when you chime the bowl, that sounds pretty. It's very pretty, right? However, it sounds like a bell. It sounds like a chime, an alert, an alarm. A lot of people associate chimes with notifications, pings. And what that does is it pings our nervous system. And if our nervous system is already overstimulated, if our nervous system is already on overload, already in fight, flight, or freeze, that chime is actually pinging the nervous system rather than soothing the nervous system. And the average client is not thinking about their nervous system unless they're one of my clients. My clients think about their nervous systems all the time, but the average person isn't thinking about their nervous system. So they may not be able to articulate, oh, that reminded me of my phone alarm, or that pinged my nervous system. A regular person is not going to say that, right? So it's our responsibility as practitioners to understand the nervous system. If a practitioner doesn't understand the nervous system, they should not be facilitating sound baths professionally, period. because harm is being done. People's nervous systems are being dysregulated even more in sessions that should be soothing and repairing the nervous system. So and I've actually seen people chime multiple bowls throughout the session. That's going to sound like chaos to the nervous system. It may sound pretty to the ears when a person is fully alert and conscious, but as a person is relaxing, taking some deep breaths, slowing down, that constant chime is actually chaotic to the nervous system. And if they're in burnout, if they're in fight, flight, or freeze and stuck there, that is going to dysregulate them even more than calm and soothe them. So what I recommend is gradually building volume. So I've heard people say, oh, my bowl doesn't want to sing today. Patience. This modality is also inviting the practitioner to slow down, to have patience. So gradually building that sound, softly, gently. And so if someone's starting to relax, that's not... Do you see the difference? And I wanted to make sure I had a really good mic that will pick up all of the sound to really show the difference. And it's so important. And these may be subtle things that people who have trained with me understand now, but I see so many people, yoga instructors, practitioners that haven't been certified. I've actually seen people that have been certified doing this. I had one of my mentees share with me in my last training, I went over some of the things that can be harmful to the nervous system, and she's like, I've been playing like this for years. And she was actually really bothered because she's like, I didn't realize I could be potentially harming someone's nervous system. We don't know what we don't know. So this video is not to make anyone feel bad. This video is not to be a slap on the wrist. It's to create awareness so we can minimize how many people are saying they had a bad experience at a sound bath. I hear it every single day, and going on the news, being on Fox 13 and having someone say, I had a really bad experience with sound baths and they didn't play anything like you. And I've actually had people say to me, you play the softest I've ever heard. And like for a second I was like, am I close enough to the bowls? It shouldn't be loud. It shouldn't be overpowering. It shouldn't be jarring. It should be soothing. And that's why people fall asleep so fast in my sound baths, because they're actually relaxed. And if it's for relaxation, you would think that they should be able to relax, but if it sounds chaotic, people are being activated in not a good way. So it's really, really, really important that we have this conversation. So it's better for the nervous system to sing the bowls and not to chime them. If you're doing sessions in the morning and not in the evening, and you want to help enhance cognitive functions, that's a little different. But for the sake of repairing the nervous system, it's better to sing the bowls rather than chime them. So another thing I want to address that I also see often, we're going to talk about Himalayan bowls. And again, I say to the people that take my trainings and my mentees, not everything you see on social media or TikTok is actually good for the nervous system. So, Himalayan bowl, these are the bowls that actually go on the body. What I see, and I say this in my trainings, again, these mallets, never, ever, ever, ever use these mallets when you are placing the bowl on the body. And I don't like to tell people what to do and not to do, but the sound and the intensity that these mallets produce when the bowl is on the body is jarring to the nervous system. It is jarring to the nervous system. I've watched videos on social media that was jarring to my nervous system just watching it, having couples or people with bowls all around them and they're activating the bowl continuously with these. That rattled my nervous system just watching it. I couldn't even imagine experiencing that in person. But then we wonder why people say, I had a really bad experience. And the thing is, because I think practitioners will feel like, well, my clients always seem happy when they leave. Let me give you an example. You go to a restaurant, something is wrong with your food. It's not cooked properly, it's wrong, they missed something. The average person, when the waiter comes over and says, is everything okay? Everything's fine. The average person will say, everything's fine. They will not speak up and say, hey, that was actually uncomfortable in a sound bath. But in a restaurant, hey, my order's wrong. And people are afraid to speak up, especially in restaurants. You know, sometimes people have fear that they're going to do something bad in the back, in the kitchen, you know, to the food. So people have fear around speaking up, but it's the same thing in these environments. People have fear of speaking up. And especially if it's a group session, it's even more likely that they're not going to speak up. So it's important for practitioners to know the nervous system, to know what is overstimulating and what's not, because clients will not always speak up. But then they go and talk about it and share to someone else that it was a bad experience. And I've actually had practitioners that went to sound baths and had bad experiences, and they know and they share with me because they're in my training, because I always say healers need healing too. So I am a huge advocate for practitioners receiving healing as well. But then they come back and say, I went to the sound bath and it was so overpowering, it rattled my nerves. And honestly, that is unacceptable. If people are coming to us for healing, it's our responsibility to have awareness around these things. So this is a really important conversation. Again, it's not a slap on the wrist. It's saying this is becoming a problem. We have to address it, and we have to understand where the nervous system is now. And with 8 in 10 people operating in burnout, our nervous systems cannot handle the intensity right now. It needs soothing, it needs subtle, it needs simple. So back to the Himalayan bowl. This mallet. So I have my mic that should pick up everything. This is what it sounds like with this mallet. When you're fully alert, it's a pretty sound, right? I'm not a huge fan of singing these bowls because that sound is jarring. It's jarring to the nervous system. And I know that there are traditional modalities and traditional teachings that teach you to sing it, but just because it's how it was done in the past doesn't mean it's best for us now. And that's something really important to acknowledge. And I've had people that have trained in India or trained in Nepal come train with me, and they want to stick to the traditional way the bowls are used. And that's okay, to each their own. But what I am an advocate for is facilitating sessions that are safe for the nervous system. So if something that was done in the past is not safe for the nervous system now, then I think it's okay to adapt a smarter way, because we have technology now that can actually measure the nervous system. That's where my information is coming from, actual data. I'm seeing people's nervous systems in burnout operating just completely like shot. So I'm not going to use a mallet that I know is only going to exacerbate the problem. So this mallet shouldn't be used if you are placing the bowl on the body. Mallets that have felt tips. So this is one. I don't have another one close by. So this is one. They have some that have red felt tips. It looks more like a ball. Let me show you the difference. Let me do this one again. So when it's on the body, using a felt tip mallet, massive difference. And it may not seem like a lot different when you are fully alert, but imagine you are starting to relax and you're taking some deep breaths, you're sinking deeper into your mat, and then you hear, and this is on you. That is going to startle you. That is going to be jarring to your nervous system. That will make a person's body jolt. And when a person jolts, that is telling your nervous system something's wrong, right? And we don't want that. That's going to keep a client in fight, flight, or freeze if it feels like something's wrong. And when I hear people say, I don't like crystal bowls or I don't like sound baths because they had a bad experience, I remember I used to say, I don't like gongs. And it's because the person I went to played the gong so intensely. What I hear people say is, the gong scared the shit out of me. A gong, really no instrument that is meant for healing should scare the shit out of you. Let's just be real. Like, it shouldn't happen. But what I realized is people were playing too loud, too intensely, and gongs are powerful. And if your nervous system is on edge, that power can actually be harmful. So playing it really subtly and gently will be more soothing, so the nervous system feels safe to relax. Healing happens when a person feels safe, and not cognitively, but safe in their body, safe in their nervous system. And if it's so intense and it's creating a reaction that feels forceful, that's not true healing. I also know that there's a huge misconception that sometimes an emotional release is a good thing, but there are examples of where it can actually be harmful and dysregulating to the nervous system. So take holotropic breath work, for example. That is known to induce big releases, and you see these videos online of people crying and their body shaking and all types of reaction. A lot of that is performative, and it's also not safe for the nervous system. People are overstimulated. People are on edge. A lot of people are struggling with their mental health, so we don't need these big performative releases. What is best for the nervous system, what is best for people's mental, emotional, and physical well-being is gentleness, it's softness, it's soothing right now because of the state of people's well-being. And so I think sometimes practitioners want it to be powerful, so they have this like really intense emotional release from clients, but is that safe for the nervous system? If a person has intensity, work is intense, home is intense, finances are intense, social media is intense, they don't want to come into what's supposed to be a healing or relaxing session for more intensity. What I think people need in today's society right now, and maybe this will change eventually, but right now, they need gentleness, they need softness, they need soothing, they need simplicity. Life is going so fast. So slowing down, simple, rest, feel safe, feel held. I want my clients to feel like they are wrapped in a warm, fuzzy blanket, and all of the craziness and chaos in the world doesn't matter for that hour. That's what I want, because that's when the nervous system says, I don't have to be in fight, flight, or freeze right now. I can just relax and repair. If the sound bath is loud, there's sharp sounds and jarring sounds and a lot of different sounds, and it feels chaotic, it's the same chaos that people are experiencing out in the world. So it's counterproductive. But coming into something that feels simple, soothing, gentle. How many people have a lot of gentleness in their lives, soothing, in their lives, nurturing in their lives. So sound baths should feel nurturing. It should feel like they're wrapped in a warm, fuzzy blanket and they're being held, not being forced to heal, forced to face their stuff, forced to clear their mind. Because healing doesn't happen from force. Healing happens when a person feels safe. And if the sounds are loud and jarring, that's not creating safety in the body. It's not creating safety in the nervous system. Share this episode. Please, please, please share this episode with a yoga practitioner, someone who facilitates sound bath, someone who owns a studio, someone who may teach sound therapy. I see a lot of certifications out there that are teaching in a way that is not necessarily safe for the nervous system. And again, it's not a slap on the wrist. I'm actually doing research, science-backed, data-backed research to see where the nervous system is. And if someone doesn't have access to research like that, they may not know. We don't know what we don't know. So this is not a slap on the wrist. This isn't to say, do this, don't do this. This is to say, hey, sound baths are gaining a bad rep, and let's come together collectively to figure out why and how we can facilitate in a way that is safe for the nervous system. So thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing this so we can create more safety in the healing space. Until next time, wishing you healing and harmony.
Thank you so much for listening to the Sound Therapy Network podcast. Edgar Cayce says, sound is the medicine of the future. The future is now. By listening and sharing this podcast, you are contributing to the wave of healing in the world and safety in the healing space.